Yes, sir.
T-bones, porterhouse.
T-bones, porterhouses. What about if we pull the bone out? Aorta and tenderloin, right? Fillet. Okay, so the spec that we're going to talk real quick is less than 1 inch back fat on that animal when it comes into harvest. That's this fat on this side. Okay, we know that the packers are doing a lot of closer trim product today. Back when I started in the industry, the standard was like a 2x3, meaning on the end, this tail end, one end would be 2 inches and it could go out to 3 inches on the other. The back fat would have been heavier. Today, they're trimming it down closer. But our consistency specs are designed to bring a more consistent product to the box. And so we're going to look for less than 1 inch back fat as it comes into harvest. So let's go ahead and I'm going to break this into, so again, porterhouse end, right, where the big fillet part is, that tenderloin narrows as it runs down. And we start running into T-bones, and then you get down to the very end. It could be a bone in New York. Okay? Or we can peel out that fillet.
So folks, as Marty is working through the short loin, it contains quite obviously 2 of the most prominent middle meat cuts, the tenderloin or the fillet, and of course the New York. Those who sell these 2 cuts truly do control their accounts. Can anybody tell us, while Marty's pulling the Pismo off, what does Pismo stand for? Tony or Lena?
Field side muscle on.
Peeled side muscle on. Is that correct, everybody?
Yes.
Absolutely. Good job, Tony. Drink up, Tony.
So there's that Pismo, right? That's just peeled off. It's going to be trimmed down a little bit. Okay? So he's going to peel that up for us. While he's doing that, I'll start pulling off the New York side, right? Barb, do you want to touch on the consistency specs while I'm working through this? So less than a 1,000-pound carcass. And,
Yes, sir.
why don't you do it with it on still, or if you sell some that way, and then we can, okay?
While we're in the slide deck, of course, one of the things that is inside of that sales map is the grades do count message. You don't get a second chance to impress your guests. This is a message for your restaurateurs, those who are serving customers on a daily basis. So you can see that USDA Select has chance of providing what in how many tough steaks? 1 in 6. And then USDA Choice. Remember, in the pyramid, it's that bottom 2/3, 2 tiers. So the 38% of this choice plus all of select, or all of choice, here is the bottom 38%, has a chance 1 in 13. I have it not on? No, I don't have it on. Sorry. All right, that should be better. And then certified Angus beef is 1 in 50. So that is something that's pretty cool from a tool perspective. We talked about maturity as one of those specifications. So a maturity is 9 to 30 months of age, and that is really based on looking at the feather bones, the button bones on the side as that side looks down, looking at the calcification of that product, of that animal. It's not really that that animal comes into the packing plant with a birth certificate attached to that ear tag.
It's a physiological
It's physiological, thank you.
so age. What they're looking for is some softer cartilage-like bone on the back of that ear versus calcified, which would signify that it's moving into the B40 range.
Yeah, those button bones need to be bright white rather than starting to turn darker. then also, you know, we look at the color and tenderness of that product as well. We've talked about consistent sizing from that 10 to 16 square inch area, but also we're looking at hot carcasses that are 1,000 pounds or less that help qualify that sizing spec as well. And then we're looking at 1 inch or less of back fat on the animal. And does anybody know why that 1 inch thickness is so important?
Cody?
It's the gene, right?
Not to be guessed, but that's not right. Why is that 1 inch fat or less important?
Because it just doesn't show the size of the animal.
Not quite.
It's fatter, way back older.
It actually has to do, again, with part of the maturity of that animal and how much time it's been fed those corn products. That's
Where's my
high,
golf ball,
that high energy starch that helps it convert and put that lean and marbling, puts the marbling into the lean. And the longer that they are fed, then there's going to put more marbling into it, but overfeeding it is going to add more fat to that outside, and we really want it to be in the lean.
So here we have a briefer on your specs. These are 3 specs, all relating to sizing. 10 to 16 inches square inch ribeye, we learned that. Marty talked about the 1 inch back fat, and then you see that the animal has to weigh less than 1,000 pounds at harvest weight. That's a briefer, and we'll talk a little bit about sizing real quick in a minute. Clint, we switch back to the video, and if I could get Marty and Marcus to put back the strip loin and the tenderloin onto the shelf, and then I want everybody to see what they've done in separating 2 muscles from the short loin. This is a money meat item. Can everybody see that now? So that short loin is about an 18-pound subprimal. It contains the bone that we often refer to as the T-bone. And we got the idea how that thing could be cut end to end and made into T-bone or porterhouse steaks. I think everybody gets that. The packer or stockyards will also be able to separate it for you the way Marcus from Stockyards just did. And show us how that comes apart, Marcus and Marty.
So go ahead and pull them off there, Marcus. What do we have there, guys? Tenderloin. And now he's already peeled side muscle off that one. He left the chain on, or you can take it to the next step. Take the chain off it.
And Marcus is so good he doesn't even need another.
While he's getting that ready, so we peeled this side off. Now what do we have here? Strip. What do we have on this end? Vein end steaks. That's going to be, depending on how thick you cut, maybe the first 4 cuts off of that strip loin. Okay, that vein is right there. That makes a pretty tough, chewy experience, right? That's why those are devalued. Okay. Then we've got. Go ahead. Peels off. Now we've got your. What's this one going to be, Kevin, in your book?
What do you want there? Let me see.
Peeled side muscle off, chain off.
You know, we would refer to that as a 190 steak ready tender.
Okay.
And that's available. My recommendation to your chefs who ask for that is like, why don't you just have us cut it into 7-ounce steak for you? Once you swim halfway across the English Ocean, why do you swim back if you're tired?
Can you see why maybe tenderloins and New York strips are a little more pricey than a short loin when we have to throw this away and take the loss? You had a question there?
Mike?
Kevin?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a cut and sense short loin where we can have them cut it 1.5 inches, 2 inches thick and have the whole thing put in a box and set out?
Do we have a cut and send program? And for those of you who don't know what that is, absolutely. At your custom cut shop, you can do just about anything that can be done. Marcus will cut, bone, fillet, do anything you want to any subprimal, and then basically put all the trim back into the bag and we'll send it to you for a reduced cost. If your operators have a home for that trim or yield loss or waste. Yeah.
Okay, so on that fillet, now we've cut a few really nice centers. Can't get too many off there, and I don't know how far down you go on your barrel cut or your centers or...
Great question. Generally, every 1190 that we're going to produce is going to have the same circumference on both sides. The only thing we do at Stockyards San Diego is clarify 1189, which is side muscle on, or 1190, which is side muscle off. And we're going to work to make cut still has the same circumference on either side. So don't worry about center cut or end to end or silver skin on or silver skin off. We really simplified the game. 1189, side muscle on,
And that's a great idea.
or 1190.
Because these are going to eat equally as well. They're a little bit smaller.
Mhm.
So you could just get a smaller size of that nice center cut or 1198,
Mhm.
or a little bit bigger one, a few more ounces on it. Okay?
So you guys should have your workbook out. You should be going through the short loin right now and making a few notes. You should know that for the rest of your life, the short loin contains the tenderloin or the pismo and the New York or the strip loin, and that both of those can be merchandised separately or together as a whole short loin, or it can be cut end to end bone in for a porterhouse steak or a T-bone steak or a bone in New York.
He cut off that vein end. Do not, talk to your restaurants. Encourage them not to sell these vein ends right in with their center cuts. They're going to devalue their New York business. People are going to eat these, and you're having a pretty high percentage that you might get one of those, right? Not good. Have them take those, either sell them as a vein steak, as a breakfast steak or something that's a less value, or something I saw that was really cool. Guy peeled the fat off and peeled that muscle out of there and took the seam out, then took it and sliced it really thin, did steak sandwiches out of it. That's a great product. Now you've actually added value to that piece. Now it's every bit as good as the other piece. It's not going to look quite right as a steak, because by the time you peel that out, now you've got a steak that looks like that. But if you peel it out and slice it thin, use it for a New York strip sandwich or some other creative idea that Kevin would come up with, now you have some value in that piece.
Yeah, what Marty just did is what we're trying to teach you today. The other guys, the guys who couldn't do it, they can't go to a restaurant and give ideas on how to build a menu item from a piece of meat and build it out by adding ideas and value. Continue to build an invoice by your knowledge of these 29 lean cuts or 9 subfinals, and you're going to win in the future moving forward.
So quickly, you can buy these New Yorks as a bone-in New York. What happens to ribeye pricing at Christmas? Through the roof, right? Kevin, do you know what the cost on the New York strip is right now?
We have a screaming special on boneless lip-on ribeyes at about $7.95 a pound.
And how about your New York strip?
Probably 5 means small change.
5 and change. Is there value in selling this piece? We've got retailers now that every year are jumping out in front and buying some New Yorks. They're still running their ribeye. You don't go away from it. But for those that are price sensitive, this thing will roast off every bit as good as a ribeye and eat extremely well. Cook it the same way you do a ribeye. That's a nice item for a value price this time of year. Okay? Then you can also cut it into steaks. This is off the end of the tenderloin. What do you do with that? Tails, right? Tips and tails. Okay? That's still an incredible piece of meat. There's no sinew left in that. That thing will eat incredibly well, so I'm sure you guys know that.
So as we've now harvested out the strip loin and the pismo or tenderloin from the short loin, a few thoughts of reference. The tenderloin or the king T is the most expensive cut on the animal, and if you're selling that, you're controlling the account. It's also the most tender muscle on the animal. And then on the flip side, that New York is just about found on every type of menu and application in restaurants that you can imagine, from breakfast steaks from the vein end all the way up to center cut New York strip steak for the finer establishments. So make some notes on that. New York happens to be my favorite steak too.
Okay, continuing with that loin complex, and we're going to have to move along pretty quickly here, but happy to talk with you when we get done. This is a top butt. Came off that back end almost down into the leg, so kind of right here, right? That comes off the end there, down near that porterhouse end of the short loin. Okay, it's going to break right there. Now, yeah, right there. Good point. So see that vein end steak from the New York strip? See that muscle right there? That's where it connects in. Okay, so that's the break. Now, you can buy these. You guys do a two-piece at all?
We do. The top butt, also known as the top sirloin, is available whole as a 14-pound subprimal, split into the two muscles that you're going to see coming apart now as a sirloin heart or a culotte, and then also available as simply sirloin hearts or simply culottes.
Okay.
Marcus, if you want, Mark, this guy could probably whip through that in about
I'm gonna have him do that while I peel the cap off. I'll get him working on the body and show you some different cuts. You can see there's two different muscles, right? What's this top calf muscle? Kulak, right? That's one of my favorite pieces of meat. And you buy that in certified Angus beef, it's got incredible marbling, great flavor. And so today you can buy them whole like this, or you can buy them in separate pieces, in the two-piece. So I'm going to peel the culotte off and work on that. Marcus is going to go ahead and take the body of it, and whatever cuts you're cutting out of a sirloin, would you go ahead and do that? Maybe some baseballs and whatever
So
else.
Marty's working on the culotte, or the sirloin cap muscle, the most tender of the sirloin complex. Marcus is going to do something really unique. He's going to take that sirloin heart. So you got two different muscles. Marty's got the culotte, and Marcus has the heart. Marcus is going to split that heart naturally with the seam and create two muscles from the heart. That sirloin heart can be split at a natural seam that can be used to create almost what we just call a log or a baseball. And Marcus will show you in a minute that he'll be able to create two really popular steaks from that. Quite obviously, he'll do the baseball steak, and then what we might call the traditional or Chicago-style sirloin. And then Marty, just to his right, has already got that culotte just about ready to be staked out. The culotte is only about 2 pounds. Not a whole lot you can do with the shape or the size. You're relegated to what it is. So if you're going to be doing steaks out of that culotte, you're looking about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ounces. That's it. Can't be any bigger. Can't really be any smaller. As a whole subprimal, it's a really small 2-pound subprimal that is incredibly tender and can be used in an infinitely versatile amount of ways. It could be roasted whole, carved at a carving station. It could be steak tips, salads, sandwiches. Very flavorful and tender cut. Both of these are sirloin cuts, top sirloin cuts. So as we're moving away from the loin, we're going back towards the more working muscles. Marty?
Okay, so I have peeled this off. I didn't catch all you said there, Kevin, but this can be used whole as a roast like a tri-tip. Great way to cook this thing. Just cook it on a grill or in the oven about 425 for a half an hour, 35 minutes, depending on the size. Medium rare, take it, slice it against the grain. You'll want to cook that with the cap on it if you're doing that, so that you keep that fat and keep it insulated. You can cut steaks out of it with the fat still on, then trim the fat, or you can peel that whole thing out. And this is typically how you would buy, if you're buying a 2-piece, they're going to come in denuded like this, with quite a few in a bag. Then they can take and cut them into steaks. Okay, you might have some ends that they're going to work with that they could use for kebabs or other applications in the restaurant. But that's what a nice culotte steak's going to look like. That eats fantastic. So I'll let you finish those, and I will grab this body.
So Marty, as you pass that culotte over to Marcus, can you show us what Marcus has done with the sirloin heart, the way he separated that into 2 muscles?
Okay, so there's a seam that runs down through this, sciatic nerve, that runs down through the sirloin. He followed that seam down and took out this piece of sirloin. What are we going to cut that into? Baseball cuts, right? Go ahead and fab that if you would. How about this piece, the other side?
Yes, strip style would be a good description, Andrew. Very good. In fact, that's a set of steak knives right there.
What was it, Kevin?
He had mentioned strip style or maybe a traditional cut inch thick.
Okay, center cut, whatever you want to call it on this side. Okay, you could actually, I've seen it done where, okay, so I cut some steaks like this out of it. I've seen it done where they took and split it again here. What's that look like?
Fillet style, baseball style.
Okay, same muscle, why not?
Yeah, CAB baseball right there. Yes, that's right there.
So you can cut that at any angle, and it'll still be tender?
No,
Or you have to split it?
you don't have to split it.
Okay,
We would first cut one that was whole,
yeah.
like that. All I did was cut it in half then, so you have 2 pieces. Okay? But you're still going to want to cut it across the grain. That's just a fantastic steak. I have a steakhouse up in Winters, California. It's about a half an hour outside of Sacramento, called the Buckhorn Steakhouse. They buy CAB Prime top butts. They age CAB Prime. They age them 60 days. Then they cut them in-house. And they merchandise that thing to the max.
Yeah.
They've got steak bites off for the trimmings off of that sirloin on their appetizer menu. They've got several different applications for the baseball, the center cut, the culotte they're doing. What a value, guys.
Yeah.
Tremendous value.
So the certified Angus beef top sirloin consists of how many main muscles, guys? Huh? 3 is kind of correct if you're considering muscle. We're looking for 2. The culotte and the heart. Somebody on this side of the room want to jump out there and show us some knowledge. What do we mean when we say 1184B? Does anybody want to grab that?
Baseball cut.
Dang, wow. Yeah, 1184B.
I'll take some steak knives.
Well, I got some steak knives. Look at that. Yeah? Yeah, and so let's continue this conversation. Okay. Yes, single muscle. Is that what you said, JP? That's a hat right there. You can only cut a baseball from a single muscle, though. So think of it this way. We're not going to necessarily need to know the meat buyer's guide numbers, 1190s, 1112s. If there's one that you're going to want to remember or try to get a grasp on, it's the top sirloin, because there's 2 muscles on there. The further down the alphabet, or the further the numerical number, the more processed it is. So an 1184 would be a double muscle top sirloin steak. The culotte and the sirloin heart would be in there. If I'm going to make an 1184B, I'm further processing it, right? And so at that point, it's going to be single muscle, as you and Ed said. And as Jeff Klein said, baseballs can only be made out of 1184Bs and are often referred to as 1184Bs. Make sense? Well, Marcus, I'll defer to you. What do you think?
Yeah, there's a D.
Yeah, because we can put an F and a D on there too, right? A D and an F. An F, I think, is the culotte. That's my man. Okay, so really we can get in depth on how many different ways you can single muscle out the top sirloin, but let's just try to remember 1184A, which is going to have both the culotte and the heart attached, or 1184B, which is just working from the center heart, and I think you'll get a lot of mileage out of that.
Yeah, that's a good way to go.
Yorkie, quick question?
I have one customer that's been, I've been cutting baseball for about 10 years, and I ask them all the time, have they ever had one come back? They've never had one come back.
And that's certified Angus beef?
Not 10 years, but how old? 5 years.
That's great. I believe it.
And that's at about $9.50 a pound.
Great.
So we're going to move into the bottom sirloin.
Nice work.
What's this piece?
So this is your next subprimal. This is the bottom sirloin, and if anybody wants to jump in, I got a hat. Let's work this side of the room. Who said that?
Jason.
Wow.
Dave.
They did, man. You can wear this when you're grilling up your steaks. Okay. So ball tip, you guys. We'll go ahead and dive right into the bottom sirloin complex as we work fast through the animal has 3 muscles. Jason Paolini has identified one. The unique attributes of a ball tip is it can be cut a lot like that clawed heart. You can do baseball steaks out of it. We can do strip style steaks out of it. Question, Josh Downing, can I call the bottom sirloin, or let me say it this way, I gave away the answer. You guys know I was getting there.
Way to go, Josh.
Can you call a ball tip steak a sirloin on your menu? Yes, he said that. So again, learning how to build an invoice out, working through 29 lean cuts. Why not throw this ball tip out there? I wouldn't go harvesting ball tip steaks out of any old USDA choice cattle, but the value that you get with the 10 carcass-based specifications, a ball tip steak from certified Angus beef will perform. Absolutely.
Okay, so here's the 2 different types of cuts. Why don't you hold those up? What do we have, Kevin? What do you call them? Your ball tip steak?
You know, that we don't really, I mean, it's a good question where we have so many unique names at Sarkar San Diego. We haven't really delved into that yet, but we're considering a series of ball tip steaks.
Okay,
One of them being a baseball, that would just be a traditional bottom sirloin or ball tip steak.
and he's got the baseballs
Okay.
there, so you can see what he did was just cut it thicker, trim it down, or did you split it? You split it, right? So split it, cut it a little bit thicker, or traditional ball tip steak. Okay? Be sure you don't confuse your customers. This is not a top sirloin. It's not gonna eat quite like a top sirloin. But it's a good steak at a great price value. Got some seams to work around and so on. Good breakfast steak, good value steak. Probably not a steak that a restaurateur's gonna put on a steakhouse menu.
Is Mark Beasley in there still? No?
No, he had to go to Santa Barbara.
He had to go sell some CAB up in Santa Barbara. Mark Easley has been selling ball tip steaks for years, you guys, at a very successful restaurant in Mission Valley. It's a breakfast steak, and he has probably over the last 10 years sold tons of a certified Angus beef 7-ounce baseball ball tip. Great.
If you look at the ball tip cut into a steak, is it two different colors, one side's a little lighter than the other?
Excellent point, yes. And I'm gonna have to get you something for that. The ball tip is kind of, and Marcus, can you hold up a couple and show what Greg just illustrated, like there? There is two muscles or natural seam that separates within the ball tip, and one of them does take on a distinctly pale color. The good news is most people don't eat them raw, so you won't see it when it comes out.
The other piece I mentioned, you know where this breaks off of? Any of you sell knuckles? Peeled knuckles? That's right where that breaks off. Over the years, as the ball tip has gotten more popular, they're taking a deeper break on that at the packing plant. Okay? Next bottom sirloin piece is what's this? Tri-tip. Tri-tip. It's a little bit elongated here. That's a strange looking one. But it's a tri-tip. Okay? You can buy that. I don't know if you guys are offering it with the fat on or if you're only selling denuded. Okay? So most people that are going to roast them whole want it with the fat on it. But not necessarily. So at least you've got two options there. The thing to keep in mind with that is when you cook that, can you see the grain in that at all from where you're at? Okay, so the grain's running here, but in this piece it starts running down this way. It's all the same muscle, but that grain starts to fan out. If you start here and slice across grain, in this part you're not going to be slicing across the grain. And you're going to get a little longer, stringier bite. So the key would be to cut this off before you start slicing it. Slice this down across the grain, then take and turn and slice that across the grain. You're going to have a much better product.
You guys see how similar that looks to the kulak, by the way? Next
piece we want to look at, what's this? Sirloin flap, right? Okay, what do you use that for? Carne asada. Anything else? Somebody said a steak? Okay, yeah, we had that for steaks before. Very good. Can you marinate that? You bet, right? Fantastic piece of meat. Yeah. Okay, so we talked about the tri-tip where you could roast that whole thing off. Marcos now has cut it into some steak portions. Makes a great steak too. Yeah, a lot of ways. If an operator's doing that, he probably wants to have something that he can take his ends and do some kebabs or some kind of tips with them. Okay, because out of that piece he got those 3 steaks and then lots of tips. So you want to make sure that they understand they need to use those products, not just put them in a lugger in the back and have to go green, right? Move them out. Okay. I don't know how you guys send this out. If you send out any steak portions, why don't you go ahead and work on that piece there while we keep rolling here.
Folks, one of the things I like to point out about the sizing specifications for certified Angus beef is for the barbecuers out there doing the briskets and the chopped roll or the closet or especially the tri-tip. You open up a 60-pound box of certified Angus beef tri-tip and they're going to look like little soldiers. Because of the 3 sizing specifications, you're not going to have a 2-pound tri-tip in a box with a 7-pound tri-tip. And that's really important for our barbecue customers because they don't want to have to babysit different size tri-tips in the smoker or in the oven, as we talked about earlier.
Great point, and that leads into this next piece on cutting. While he's trimming up that bottom sirloin. We're gonna work on the inside round, so we're moving to the round complex. Inside round, this one looks like a pretty heavy back cover. I don't know if that was out of a commodity or it's got some chunky meat on the back. It's definitely not a denuded or an XT.
No, that's correct. What you're looking at is a commodity trim top round. Similar in footprint or shape almost as that clog that we looked at, also about 20
About the same
pounds.
size.
Yeah.
That Kevin had mentioned how that sizing spec becomes pretty important on some of those cuts that you're roasting off. This one would be one of those that it's very important in. And you're not going to have a perfect science here. The animals still vary. We're looking at, on the weight of animals, our spec is less than 1,000 pound carcass weight. We know that prior to that spec implementation, we had anywhere from down to 800 up to the 1,150 just pound carcasses. That's a pretty broad range. They've narrowed that down and brought some more consistency to the box with this product. So, done a great job of trimming that up, and you say you do cut some steaks out of it?
Cut a steak, cut a roast line.
Okay,
So jumping back real quick, Marcus is finishing up the bottom sirloin complex on that lap meat. Is that correct, Marty?
Yep. Yep.
So you had your ball tip, as Jason identified. You had the tri-tip, as Marty illustrated. And then this flat meat, probably one of my other favorite cuts of meat to sell. Available in many different ways as a single muscle portion steak. Available as what we call the cornadas, filet rolled and tenderized. Fantastically versatile piece of meat in about that $3 and high change price point. And also can be called sirloin on any menu, and has a striation or a grain to it. It drinks up marinade and seasoning is quite nice. And I like what Marcus has done. He filleted one up. Marcus, show him how you roll that one for packaging. We call that the.
Oh, that's the butterfly.
Yeah, we'll pretend like that's the butterfly. You roll it up.
Tenderize it.
Yeah. And Michael Thomas sells that to Qualcomm Stadium and the Chargers for the world's ultimate steak sandwich at 6 ounces. They know exactly what the portion cost is on that item, and it's made to order, and it comes out looking like little beef donuts. It's really kind of a cool thing.
And then he cut the steak from it. It just makes a really nice steak as well. What's your price points on this, Kevin?
We have that as listed as the Vista Churrasco for around high 7s, but again, portion cost. Usually based off 8 ounce steak, it's another $3.50 steak.
Fantastic.
Certified beef sirloin.
Okay, so on to the inside, this round. Comes in like that. Like, what are you guys doing with the inside round? Roasting it, right? Okay, pot roast. We've got the pre-cooked. It's going to be a CAB roast beef. Okay, or again, they buy it raw like this. They can roast it off. It's a great carving station item. There is some waste on the side that comes off, and I'm assuming you probably put that stuff into some stew meat or cubes, right, Marcos?
We make cubes.
Cubes, okay. So, I don't know, are you guys cutting any London broils out of this? Okay, but an operator could. If they wanted to, they could take and further break this down. Take off that wasty side. The front piece has got a lot of connective tissue and so on in it, so I dug down into that a little bit. Then you get down into this, and they can lean it up as much as they want and roast that off, slice it thin, and cut it across the bias. I'm going to get one more little deeper into this so you can get a good look at it. Yeah. Okay, so they can roast that off, then just slice it thin. That would be a London broil. Okay? That's probably as far as we need to go in that one. They can peel that cap off. There's lots of different things they can do with it. For the sake of time, right now, we'll probably just keep rolling here.
Yeah, we're rolling along quite good with the halfway point here in this session. Bart's going to refer to some of our specs. And you guys, my thought on the subject is, better barbecue, better anything begins with better beef. Don't let them tell you that I'm just doing this with it. I don't need your certified Angus beef top round or your certified Angus beef, quad. Always say the three-letter phrase, certified Angus beef top round, certified Angus beef quad. When you break it down, the difference between that and the select product is probably like 10 to 15 to 20 cents a portion difference, and the flavor will come through. If it's a working muscle or a value cut, don't revert to the select or the choice, because everybody else is going to do that with you, and then you're just going to raise the price war. Every chance you get to place a certified Angus beef end cut or value cut, you're doing something nobody else can do.
All right, so we have some more specs to cover while we're waiting for Marty to clean up there. Quality, appearance, and tenderness specs. Moderately thick or thicker muscling. What does this refer to? What is it eliminating? Dairy influence.
Alan Beck, good job.
Hey!
Drink up,
Dairy
Buttercup.
influence. If you think about, how many of you have seen a strip steak that is concave, or a ribeye that's concave rather than convex, nice and round in shape? That would be a dairy influence. So the certified Angus beef brand eliminates dairy, even though Holsteins muscle or marble extremely well. No neck hump exceeding 2 inches. We've already talked about that. That eliminates that Brahmin influence that Marty talked about. No dark cutters. What is that a result of?
Rocio, what is a dark cutter?
It's as a result of like capillary rupture. And
Similar, yeah, that, I'll count that as a yeah. What causes a dark cutter or capillary rupture?
It's, at the time of harvesting, the animal, the stress that it brings.
Pretty much, yeah. At the time of harvest, sometimes the animal will seize or tense up, and that might, and correct me if I'm wrong, Marty, might cause a dark cutter.
Yeah, typically it's gonna be prior to harvest. Just like people,
Good job,
some
Rob.
animals are more jumpy than others. Have you got any in here that are a little more tense?
I would say Jeff Klein probably qualifies.
Jeff is a dark cutter.
Too tense.
Jeff is a dark cutter. He's excitable, he's happy, he's jumping around, he's got energy. Those cattle that are calm and just kind of take things easy aren't usually as susceptible. But if animals have been trucked a long way, maybe it was hot, they're jumpy animals anyway, or sometimes guys out there in the ranches don't handle them as well as they should. They don't understand. You want to keep them calm all the time. So what they do is they burn up the glycogen in their system, causes them to retain water. They'll take on that dark, purplish, brownish color and attack the sticky texture. Some studies say it doesn't affect the flavor, some say it does. What we do know is that's not going to sell in a retail meat case. And for your chefs, you walk in and they open that bag up and it doesn't bloom, and it's got that purple look, they don't want it. So premium products, they look good. We eliminate them for those reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that for the most part, cattlemen, those who are raising cattle, care so much about how they're raising them, and we know that you have to be cool, calm, and collected, even though they can drive you nuts and not do what you want them to do. But we treat them with care. The last one is practically free of capillary rupture in the ribeye. And that is where you'll see splotches of blood in the meat. And that is a little light, so you can't really see the picture very well. But that has a chance to happen. Think of the vessels, the veins in an animal as a hose. And if you turn on the water and don't release the pressure, that hose has a chance of bursting. The same thing would happen in an animal. After it's knocked and hung up, if they don't cut the jugular right away and release that pressure, then capillary ruptures have a chance of happening.
Yeah, typically they've knocked it, it's up, maybe they have a work stoppage and that chain stops, but it hasn't bled out all the way. Now that blood cools into the vessels, breaks and bleeds out and takes on that unsightly blood splash. So we want to eliminate those.
So those things been minimized with that, the process that Temple Grandin introduced.
All of the things that Temple Grandin has done to help with dark cutters and all those kind of things. And for those who don't know who Temple Grandin is, there's a great show, HBO put it on, and it was on Temple Grandin. She's actually an autistic woman who has a phenomenal ability to understand the way animals are seeing things. And so she's gone into packing plants and feedlots and so on to find ways to eliminate stress and make it a nice process as these cattle are coming through, so that we get the highest quality products and those animals are treated well. Okay?
If you saw that in the ribeye and obviously the tenderloin, would you see that,
Not
in other
necessarily
areas
in
as
every
well?
place, yeah, that's the tough part about it. You may not always see it in all areas. May have broken in one area and not in others. So it's not a perfect science because you couldn't miss that at harvest, but we try to eliminate that. Okay? This was that inside round. I just wanted to show you further. If somebody doesn't have the kind of business where they want to do a whole inside, they can take it down to there. They can take some London broils off it, and then they've got a nice size roast to roast off. Pretty nice piece of meat. Yeah, watermelon cat.
We do have the bottom, if you're looking at your cattle diagram, we're going to roll through the bottom from front to back real quick. It's only 3 cuts, it's pretty self-explanatory. Just to kind of summarize where we're at right
Yeah,
now.
you might want to just show them on.
What's that?
You might want to show them on.
Great, all right, thank you. That's why we shipped that here. So, just to recap real briefly, we started with the rib. I like how Marty dug right into the money part. We went to the chuck. We separated the chuck roll and the clod. We looked at the clod and all the 3 muscles within there, the clod heart, the teres major, and the clod iron. We went through, after the break, the short loin and separated the pismo and the strip loin, and we saw how that could be merchandised. The top sirloin was awesome when Mark just split that apart into baseballs and Mark did the culottes. And then the bottom sirloin, all the versatility with the ball tip, the tri-tip, and the flat, it's all coming together, right? And then Marty merchandised the round, much like we would do in a retail setting. And then we're gonna cover the brisket, the plate, and the flank next, but before we do, I think we're getting a hang of why this is coming together for us. And you may not be able to remember the 10 specs, you might only gravitate to a few of them, but this is the take home. This is where you stick out your chest when you're working with your customers and you say the 3-word phrase over and over and you talk about the highest quality beef with the greatest amount of availability. This is the theory and the concept behind what we're doing today. It just takes the confusion out of beef buying, but what I say is it just gives an overwhelming sense of confidence. People want to have better beef. They don't know where their meat comes from all the time or what's in it. They know what certified Angus beef means, and they take that for the concept. It's not confusing. Definitely, we understand it. It's something the competition doesn't have.
I'd say keep in mind that you're, like Kevin said, you're probably not going to remember all 10 specs today. That's what the sales map is for. You can walk right through the 10 specs with that sales map. If I'm not selling certified Angus beef, I don't leave home without that sales map.
That's a great point. And that sales map on the back page sends a strong message. And that's why I send it out to you guys like 5 and 6 times a month. Yeah, Brad?
You know that I'm a big fan of putting the word brand after certified Angus beef.
Yes, you are.
Everybody's got Angus, but when you tell them it's certified Angus beef brand, it really says what it is.
That's a great idea.
Well said, Brad. And that's something, Brad, among other things, that taught me along the way. And I think you also used the word program quite a bit, the Certified Angus Beef program or the Certified Angus Beef brand. Another set of golf balls. Taking some of your chefs out there on the court.
Yeah, they don't have any brand, they have brand identity, but it comes and it goes. And they're very jealous of this program. One of the reasons I came here was to solidify my center of the plate and that great opportunity. I take anything out right now, what's going on, please take out number 3, which gives you the advantage over the competition. They have nothing to say. And even when the time comes that they do have it, whenever that may be, it's going to take them a long time to even learn how to create the 10 science-based specs, why it is. They're looking at it like a black Angus. They have no idea.
Yes, generic.
And I'm so happy to be here to learn this, because this is going to give me my tool to go out there and, create an opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for being here.
And for the most shy guy in the room today. Great points, Neil. Great points. And this is coming. coming from a guy who didn't have it, remember I said earlier this morning, you either have it or you're selling against it. It's always something that I like to say. Clint, we switch back to the video feed and have Marty work his way through the